Hello YouTube and fellow Wasteland Wanderers, and welcome to the Bigger Pixel, a brand new gaming channel where we are going to be bringing you weekly Fallout 4 content. This is your host, the Gaming Mandroid, and today we are going to be looking at a very fun build that I like to call the Nerdzerker. Now, I like to roleplay the Nerdzerker as a sort of overly sensitive kind of a dork that sort of flies off the handle at the slightest provocation. And the way we're going to see that is in how the build is really focused and centered around the Nerd Rage perk. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our best to play beneath 20% health at all times so that the Nerd Rage perk is almost constantly active. You can see right now in my health bar that almost about 80% of my health bar, really it's about 75%, there's a little bit of leeway. But it's all taken up with radiation damage, and that is so that I can play with the Nerd Rage perk and have it activate almost constantly. In almost any battle, it will trigger. And the extra damage resistance, extra damage output is going to make this build incredibly effective. However, in order to do that and stay underneath about 25% of our health at all times, we're really going to have to create a pretty interesting almost contradiction in the glass cannon tank. And what that means is that we're going to maximize our health and damage resistance, but we're going to be playing with such a small percentage of our health that we're really not going to be able to take too much damage anyways. It's going to be a tough balance, but it's very rewarding when you get the right nirvana, and I promise you that that nirvana is there. And now let's take a look at the Nerdzerker's starting special stats. So we are going to start with a strength of 5. That's going to give us access to primarily the heavy gunner perk, but it's also a good idea to have a decent amount of strength because there is a very high equipment load on this build. We're going to have, of course, our endurance at 9. Like I said, we need as much health as we can get, and our intelligence at 9. We will be, as soon as possible, acquiring the bobbleheads for both of these to bring them up to 10. You will be using the Your Special skill book to bring your luck up to 2. Now, taking a look at some of these early level perks, levels 2 through 10, we will not at this stage of the game actually be playing with the radiation damage. You'll be playing normally with your entire health bar because you do need to acquire a few crucial perks to set up this gameplay style. Those, overall, some of the most important perks, especially early on to take, are all the defensive ones. So we're going to be taking Lifegiver to increase our maximum health. We're going to be taking armor to get as much defense as we can, and we're also going to be taking toughness to get a flat 10 damage resistance, which is a big difference, especially in the early game. And that's going to set us up, prepare us for at about level 10 when we will be picking up the Nerd Rage perk. Now, I've put it at 10 somewhat arbitrarily. I have play tested this a little bit myself. Roughly about 10 levels was how long it took for me to reach the intelligence bobblehead. It is located in the Boston Public Library, and just about the time I got it was at level 10. So that was when I got the Nerd Rage perk, and at that point on, you should be able to go ahead and take a bunch of radiation damage down to about 25% of your maximum health, and you can start playing this build the way it's meant to be played at about a level 11. So just a side note about this perk list and how I've laid it out. I wanted to leave the list as open and flexible as possible, mainly when it comes to which weapons you choose to use. The way I've done this is to build my build around automatic weapons and heavy weapons. The reason this is important is that these have the highest level requirements of any of the weapon skills. Therefore, if you wanted to play a Nerdzerker but you didn't want to do automatic weapons, let's say you wanted to do pistols, so you wanted to use the gunslinger skill. Now, you can do that. All you have to do, if that is going to be your primary weapon, is look through this list, and wherever I say to take Commando rank 1 or rank 2, instead take Gunslinger rank 1 or rank 2 or whatever matches up and corresponds. Because I'm using Commando and that has the highest level requirements, you should see no contradictions, no problems with taking the perk of your choice, because it should have an equal or lesser level requirement. The same goes with heavy guns as your secondary weapon. Whatever secondary weapon type you would like, you can just kind of input into where I say heavy guns. And the same also goes with gun nut and science. You'll see that I've sort of put a slash between them wherever they appear on this, So whichever appears first there before the slash, that's going to be your primary crafting technique, whether you're focusing on ballistic or energy weapons. So for me, whenever I play with a certain build, to me it's really important that I get to see its core gameplay as early as possible, and to do that you do have to take care of a couple of priorities as soon as you can at the early levels. The first priority would definitely be to get your intelligence bobblehead, like I mentioned, from the Boston Public Library. Now, to do that in this build, since we don't have any lockpicking skill, there is a way in. It's covered in some of the gameplay footage earlier in this video. There is a way to get in with a charisma check, but there's a chance you'll fail that because this character also does not have a high charisma. If you really want to guarantee your ability to get in, then what you're going to have to do is pick up Kait as your companion from the combat zone on your way to the Boston Public Library. And she is very close to that library, so that's not too far out of your way. And you're going to need Kait either way. You're going to need her to help you do your lockpicking, and she's also the only companion who's going to approve of your constant chem use in this build. Some other priorities that you see pictured here, picking up the repair bobblehead to get an increased duration on your fusion cores. That can really help with your power armor, which is going to let you tank damage just like we need to. Honestly, you should be able to play without it, but if you like power armor, it's a great fit for this build to go ahead and get that early on. And right next to it, since we have such low charisma, you should also pick up the Tales of a Junktown Jerky vendor magazine that is in the Super-Duper Mart, right next to the Corvega factory, which is where you will find the repair bobblehead. And you can see all those video clips earlier in this video already covered. After that, your next big priority is going to be, upon arriving in Diamond City, to start and complete the quest Diamond City Blues. This is very important because at about this level, you should be just about level 12 or so when you're getting to here. And that's when you're going to be taking Chemist. You should already have taken Chem Resistant by then. So we're really going to start taking chems to support our build and really increase our damage output as well as our defense. Taking Med-X and Psycho Buff and whatnot can really cut the damage down that you're receiving, which will help you survive at 20% health, especially at these lower levels. So the reason we want to take the Diamond City Blues quest is because at the end we will be rewarded with about 50, I believe, of all of the main drugs: Buff Out, Psycho, Mentats, Jet, and I believe you might also get Med-X from that. There's one other. So you'll have a great stockpile from which to create your base chems that you're going to be using. Honestly, with 50 of each, you could probably get through almost your entire playthrough without having to buy or find drugs ever again. So the next really big step is to make sure that you unlock the Ballistic Weaves. If you haven't seen Ballistic Weaves yet, that is a special mod that can only be unlocked by playing through the Railroad Questline. You're going to have to do a couple of the introductory quests until eventually you get a sort of a Radiant quest called Secure the DIA Cache, Supply Cache, I believe that's what it's called. Once you do that, you will unlock, by speaking to Tinker Tom, the Ballistic Weave mods. These can be applied to clothing items to increase their armor rating, and the key is to apply it to an item that you can wear underneath your armor. In this case, I believe my character is wearing the Army Fatigues with the Ballistic Weave. The great part is that you can also put one of these mods on a hat item, which will net you, at the higher armor levels with the Ballistic Weave mod, an incredible defense damage threshold combined with all your other armor. So these two pieces of armor from the Ballistic Weave mods in your base clothing and your hat are going to really bring you up over the threshold you need to dramatically increase your survivability with such low health. So at this point you have most of what you need to make your build work. I would just recommend picking up a few unique weapons that are fantastic for you. I will say the Spray and Pray, the Overseer's Guardian, and the Ashmaker are all great choices for this class. Stay tuned, and we should be posting some videos to help you find those in the game. So one of your final priorities that you can delay up until about level 26 is to acquire the Charisma Bobblehead. You will need that extra point to gain your Lone Wanderer perk, but at that point you have just about everything you need to really move on with your build, and just follow this perk list here as I've shown it, and you will be absolutely overpowered by the time you hit even level 30, especially when you get the second Nerd Rage. So let's just look at some pros and cons of the Nerdzerker build. So overall, with the maximum intelligence, we have a fantastic experience gain. We have an excellent damage output and defensive capabilities from our build, from all of our armor. We do have, you'll see, access to virtually all mods except for blacksmithing. Once you hit the higher levels, you'll have all the science and the best power armor you can get. The end game, you'll really have some awesome power armor to use with all the options you could want except for the melee-based ones. Now, the cons of this build can be a little annoying just because it has no lockpicking or hacking. Hacking is easy to pick up since you already have the intelligence. Lockpicking is more of a hassle since we lack the perception necessary. So you're going to be reliant on companions, which is going to interfere with your lone wanderer that starts at level 26. By the way, Fatman on a Bloatfly. Another con of this build is, unfortunately, radiation level management, which can be a real hassle. However, we here at the Bigger Pixel like to do that in the classiest way possible, by just shoving nuclear waste into our faces. Of course, this can be kind of an uphill battle as you reach the upper levels, because you will have taken rad resist 3 times, and you're just going to be, this is actually us in the glowing sea, and it's just not enough radiation. But once you get through that, getting down to 25% health, that can be annoying, but the only other thing is just that we have very low charisma, very poor bonding power, and a really heavy loadout. You might want to consider getting a heavy back. It would require 1 more point of strength, but that's not too hard to get. So there you have it, our Nerdzerker build. It is a lot of fun to play, guys. I really recommend you try it. I think it's a ton of fun. So thank you for tuning in to our very first video here at the Bigger Pixel. Please check back next week for yet another Fallout 4 build coming to you. And if you liked this video, please take a second, give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more content. And again, thanks to all of our viewers who watched any ads at the beginning of this video. That does help us out quite a bit. So thanks again for tuning into the Bigger Pixel. That was the Nerdzerker, and this has been the Gaming Mandroid.